Hey JC3 students, Michael here, and today is day 5, Friday, April the 10th of our Easter devotional study. At this point in our story, Jesus has eaten with the disciples. He's been betrayed by one of them, a guy named Judas. He's been put on trial. He has been whipped. He's been put on the cross. They've nailed him to it. And now our story picks up with Jesus actually on the cross. This was a big spectacle. A lot of people came out to witness it. Some of the disciples were actually there, maybe in disguise or maybe hiding amongst the crowd, to see what was happening to this man that they had followed for so long. And our two items today are the sponge and the spear. And both of them play an important role in Jesus' time on the cross. And so first we'll start with the sponge. I'm sure you guys have one of these in your house somewhere. This is a synthetic sponge. It's made out of like some sort of plastic material. But sponges were around back then. They're actually sea creatures and they work a lot like these. They absorb water or liquid. You can use it to wash things or to carry liquid somewhere. And in Matthew 27, verse 48, it says that one of them at once ran and grabbed a sponge. He soaked it in cheap wine, then put it on a stick and held it up to Jesus. One of the things that we need to understand here is that Jesus was actually on the cross for quite some time in the scorching heat of what is Israel in the Middle East. And so he was thirsty. Now they wouldn't let him drink water because water would prolong his life. So instead they used what they called cheap wine, but in our day would be a lot like vinegar. And vinegar, if you've ever tried to take a swig of it, is kind of rough to drink. It may have helped Jesus a little bit with the thirst that he was feeling. It probably would have helped Jesus with the dry mouth that he had going on, but it wasn't anything that was going to sustain him for a long time. This was just another way of the Romans torturing Jesus while he was on the cross. And eventually we get to a part of the story where Jesus, according to the Romans, is taking too long to die on the cross. And they want to make sure he's dead, and so they get a spear. And it would have looked a little bit different from this, but I think you can kind of get the gist. And in John 19:34, it said that one of the soldiers plunged his spear into Jesus' side, and at once blood and water poured out. So basically, after Jesus had been tortured on the cross and whipped and everything else that he had gone through, they wanted to make sure that he was dead, to seal the deal, and to finish this whole thing. And so they used a spear to stab him. What's interesting here is it says that blood and water poured out. This is actually a medical thing. And oftentimes what happens when people undergo serious traumatic injuries to their organs, especially their heart, water fills up in their body cavity. And this may be an indication that what actually killed Jesus was his heart. That maybe his heart literally broke while being on the cross. So that is where we are in our story. This is the point where Jesus has died, and we're going to pick it up again tomorrow to see what happens next. Make sure you're reading your devotional, make sure that you're following along, and I will see you guys tomorrow on Saturday for the next part of the story.